Lesson 14. Fairy Tales and Legends.
Hello. Today we're going to review adverbs and then we're going to study adverb clauses. First, let's look at some new vocabulary. A legend. A legend. Well, a legend is an old, well-known story about brave people, adventures, or magical events. For example, Robin Hood, Aladdin, or Merlin the Magician are examples of legends. A fairy tale. A fairy tale. Well, a fairy tale is a children's story in which magical things happen. Hansel and Gretel and Cinderella are examples of fairy tales. A palace. A palace. A palace is a large, grand house where a king or a queen or a king and a queen live. It's similar to a castle. A moat. A moat. A moat is a deep, wide hole filled with water. It's used for defense. A drawbridge. A drawbridge. Well, a drawbridge is a bridge that can be pulled up to stop people from entering a castle. A crossbow. A crossbow. A crossbow is a kind of weapon like a small bow, and it's used for firing small arrows. A fairy. A fairy. A fairy is a small imaginary creature with magical powers, and it usually looks like a small person. And a fairy godmother. A fairy godmother. Fairy godmother is a woman who saves people from trouble. She's a magical creature. A dwarf. A dwarf. A dwarf is an imaginary creature that looks like a small man. An elf. An elf. An elf is an imaginary creature that looks like a small man with pointed ears. And a giant. A giant. A giant is a big, tall man, and he is often bad or cruel. A witch. A witch. A witch is an old woman who is supposed to have magical powers, especially to do bad things. And a witch rides around on a broom. A wizard. A wizard. A wizard is an old man with magical powers, and a wizard is similar to a magician. A genie. A genie is a magical spirit that lives in a lamp. And finally, a potion. A potion. A potion is a drink that has a magical or special effect on the person who drinks it. Witches often make potions. Okay, let's go over these words now. A legend. A fairy tale. A palace. A moat. A drawbridge. A crossbow. A fairy. And a fairy godmother. A dwarf. An elf. A giant. A witch, a wizard, a genie, and finally, a potion.
Adverbs.
Well, it's time to review adverbs. First, what is an adverb? An adverb is a word that describes or modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Adverbs usually end in the letters ly, and they usually answer the question how. So have a look at these examples. The witch stirred the potion slowly. The dwarves walked over the drawbridge carefully. In the first sentence, slowly is an adverb. It describes the word to stir. How did the witch stir the potion? She stirred the potion slowly. Now, in the second sentence, carefully is an adverb, and it describes the verb to walk. How did the dwarves walk? They walked carefully. Now, many adverbs end in ly. Some examples are cautiously and slowly and quietly. ly, ly, ly. These adverbs usually come at the end of a sentence. Now, some words can be both adverbs and adjectives, as in these examples. Dwarves work hard. Dwarves are hard workers. In the first sentence, hard is an adverb, and it describes the word to work. Now, in the second sentence, hard is an adjective, and it describes the noun workers. Another example of this word is fast. Have a look at these examples. Fairies can fly fast. Fairies are fast flyers. Now, fast is an adverb in the first sentence. It's modifying the verb to fly. And in the second sentence, fast is an adjective. It describes the noun flyers. Well, let's practice. Let's use some adverbs in your answers. Monica, what does a wizard do?
A wizard can make a person disappear quickly.
Very good. And Rosa, where can you find a moat?
You can find a moat at a castle or palace. People walk over them carefully.
Good. And Lewis, what does a witch do?
A witch works hard to do bad things to people.
Okay, thank you everyone. And now it's time for you to look and listen carefully.
Look and listen.
The fairy godmother helped the boy who was sleeping soundly. The giant stomped hard on the ground. Paul Bunyan chopped down the trees quickly with his axe. The witch flew fast through the night.
Read and repeat.
Adverbs are often used to express time. Have a look at these sentences. The genie will grant Larry's wish tomorrow. Yesterday, the witch found her old broom. Well, tomorrow and yesterday are adverbs, and they are used at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. Adverbs are also used to express frequency. Now, you've seen these before. For example, a giant usually hides in a cave. A wizard always uses a staff. Well, let's practice. Let's use adverbs of frequency or of time in your answers. Lewis, how often do you read fairy tales?
I rarely read fairy tales. They are for children.
Well, not always, Lewis. Rosa, have you ever read a fairy tale?
Of course, I started one yesterday. It is called Rumpelstiltskin.
I've read that one. And Monica, what are fairies frightened of?
That's a difficult question. I think they're frightened of giants. They never go near them.
Good. Thank you very much, everyone. And now, as always, you're going to look and listen very carefully.
Look and listen.
The witch will fly over the graveyard tomorrow. Magicians always carry a wand. Yesterday, the elves finished making the necklaces. Harriet sometimes reads Robin Hood.
Read and repeat.
Well, let's review comparative and superlative adverbs. Have a look. A witch will fly closer to a giant than a fairy will. A giant walks faster than a dwarf does. Witches fly the fastest in the sky. And dwarves work the hardest when they are outside. Comparative adverbs compare two actions. In the first sentence, closer is a comparative adverb. It compares the actions of a witch and a fairy. In the second sentence, faster is a comparative adverb. It compares the actions of a giant and a dwarf. Now, superlative adverbs occur in comparisons of three or more things. Now, in the third sentence, fastest is a superlative adverb. It compares witches to all the other things on earth. And in the fourth sentence, hardest is a superlative adverb. It describes one situation, dwarves working outside, to all other situations. Now, another type of adverb is called a mid-sentence adverb. Have a look at these sentences. The fairy probably won't go to the forest. Merlin the magician already made the magic carpet appear. In the first sentence, probably is an adverb. And in the second sentence, already is an adverb. There are also adverbs of sequence, and we use these to describe a process. They usually come at the beginning of the sentence, and they're usually followed with a comma. So have a look at these examples. First, the witch got on her broom. Then, she shouted at the black cat. Next, she screamed at the sky. Finally, she flew away on her broom. So in these sentences, first, next, then, and finally are adverbs of sequence. Well, let's practice. Let's review the last of these adverbs. Rosa, what would you do if you saw a witch?
First, I would scream. After that, I would run. Finally, I will die.
Well, I hope you never see a witch, Rosa. And Lewis, what would you do if you met a wizard?
I met a wizard. You should know him, but I live closer to this man than you do.
Really? I'm not sure if I believe you. Okay, and Monica, what would you do if you saw a genie?
I would ask him for 3 wishes. I would be rich.
Okay, great everyone. Now, first you're going to look, and then you're going to listen.
Look and listen.
A fairy flies more frequently than a witch. The moat was just filled with water. Gonk the giant walks the most carelessly of anyone. The drawbridge was finally closed.
Read and repeat. Adverb clauses.
Well, our review of adverbs is finished, so let's begin our lesson on adverb clauses. First, it's important to remember what a clause is. So we have a clause. It's the part of a sentence, and it has a subject and a verb. Now, there may be several clauses in a sentence. There may be the independent or the main clause. And the main clause is a complete sentence. A complete sentence. we may have the independent or the subordinate clause. Subordinate clause. This is the other part. And this is an incomplete sentence. Incomplete sentence. Okay, now for example, let's have a look at these sentences. The wizard knows where the giant lives. So in this sentence, the wizard knows. The wizard knows is the main clause. It could be a sentence all by itself. Where the giant lives is our subordinate clause. It's not a complete sentence. This clause needs this clause. But this clause could be a sentence without this clause. So that's the main clause, that's a subordinate clause. An adverb clause is a kind of dependent clause. It can come in front of a main clause or it can come after it. It begins with certain words such as because or after. So if we have our adverb clause, uses words like because, after, and other words. Now, if an adverb clause begins a sentence, then it's followed with a comma. Let's look at some different clauses, some different kinds of adverb clause. Let's start with adverb clauses of time. Have a look at these examples. When the crow cawed, the giant woke up. The fairies came out after the elves went home. So, adverb clauses of time begin with words such as when or after. In the first sentence, the adverb clause is when the crow cawed. So, adverb clause of time. For example, when the crow cawed. This is our adverb clause, not a main clause, adverb clause. It begins with the word when. It's a dependent clause, so it's not a complete sentence. It needs the main clause. And it begins the sentence, so it's followed with a comma. When the crow cawed, the giant woke up. Okay, in the second sentence, after the elves went home is the adverb clause. After the elves went home. After the elves went home. This is our adverb clause. It begins with the word after. It's a dependent clause, so it's not a complete sentence. But this one comes after the main clause, so there's no comma. When the crow cawed, comma, the giant woke up. And the second one is the fairies came out after the elves went home, so no comma. Let's practice. Let's use some sentences with adverb clauses of time in them. Lewis, when does a witch wake up?
A witch wakes up before the sun goes down. She must be ready for the night.
Good, Lewis. And what is the adverb clause?
Before the sun goes down is the adverb clause.
Excellent. Monica, when does a dwarf leave his cave?
A dwarf leaves his cave when it's time for work.
Okay, and what's the adverb clause?
When it's time for work is the adverb clause.
Excellent. And Rosa, when does a wizard pick up his staff?
Before he sees an enemy, he picks up his staff.
Okay, thank you. What's the adverb clause?
Before he sees an enemy is the adverb clause.
Great. I'm happy everyone understands. Now, when you look and listen, you can practice.
Look and listen.
When the fairy godmother came, the prince was asleep. The drawbridge was closed after the soldiers left. Before the moat was filled, the witches collected the dead frogs. The giant ate the dwarf after pulling off his head.
Read and repeat.
Well, now let's look at adverb clauses which express purpose. Please take a look. The giant caught the dwarf family so that he could roast them for dinner. The genie granted the wish so that he could go back to his lamp. Now, in the first sentence, the adverb clause is so that he could roast them for dinner. So that expresses a purpose. So that means a purpose, or it answers the question, what for? The giant caught the dwarf family for a purpose. The purpose was to eat them for dinner. Now, in the second sentence, so that he could go back to his lamp is an adverb clause. So that expresses purpose, and so that can also be used to express ability as well. Purpose or ability. Can is then used in the adverb clause. Let's have a look at this example. The wizard is going to perform a trick so that he can get rid of the annoying elves. So that plus can is ability. Let's practice. Lewis, would you marry a witch?
Yes, I would marry a witch so that I could get free brooms. No, I'm a dirty person.
Always an interesting answer from you, Lewis. And Rosa, would you live with a giant?
I would live with a giant so that I could sit on his head and see everywhere. He should be a nice doll.
Good answer. And Monica, would you like to be a fairy?
I would like to be a fairy so that I can fly. I would fly everywhere.
Thank you very much, everyone. And now, please look and listen so that you can improve your English.
Look and listen.
The dwarf polished the ring so that he could give it to his wife. Merlin the magician bought a new wand so that he could do more tricks. The workers dug a wider moat around the castle so that the enemy couldn't get inside. Barb bought the book Peter Pan so that she could read it to her daughter before bed.
Read and repeat.
Now let's look at another kind of adverb clause. And these are adverb clauses which show cause. Cause. And these kind of adverb clauses usually use the words because, or now that, or since. And they answer the question, why? Have a look at these examples, please. Because the princess was sleepy, the prince visited the fairy godmother alone. Now that the giant is dead, the elves can go back to the forest. Since a witch is evil, she can make potions to hurt people. Now, in the first sentence, because the princess is sleepy, because the princess was sleepy, is the adverb clause. The adverb clause says why the prince went home alone. Why did he go alone? He went alone because the princess was sleepy. In the second sentence, now that the giant is dead is the adverb clause. Now that means because now. So now that the giant is dead, now that the giant is dead means because the giant is dead. Because the giant is dead. Now that the giant is dead, because the giant is dead. It's the same. So we use now that for present and future situations. In the third sentence, since a witch is evil is an adverb clause. Now since means because. Since means because. But it expresses a well-known fact. We all know this. We know that the witch is evil, so we use since. Since can also be used in adverb clauses of time, but it has a different meaning. It has a time meaning. Have a look at this example. Since the princess was born, the castle has been a better place to live. The sentence means that from the time the princess was born, the castle has been a better place to live. Well, let's practice. Okay, Rosa, in Cinderella, why did the prince look for the woman who had lost her shoe?
He looked for her so that he could give the shoe back to her. Then he could marry her.
You remember the story well.
Yes.
And Monica, in Robin Hood, why did he steal from the rich people?
He stole money from the rich people because he wanted to help the poor.
Good. And Lewis, why did the genie give 3 wishes?
Since he was a good genie, he gave 3 wishes.
Very good.
Review.
Now, let's do some exercises. I'd like you to fill in the blanks with the appropriate adverb ending in ly. Lewis, you can go first. The children ran from the witch something.
I hope it's not slowly. The children ran from the witch quickly.
Good. The children ran from the witch quickly. Monica, this one's for you. People must act something after they are given wishes by a genie.
People must act carefully after they're giving wishes by a genie.
Very good answer. People must act carefully after they are given wishes by a genie. And Rosa, the last one's for you. You should speak something when talking with a wizard.
You should speak politely when talking to a wizard.
Good. You should speak politely when talking with a wizard. Good job, everybody. And thank you. Now let's do another exercise using adverbs. Each person will give us two sentences using adverbs of frequency. Now let's see. We can have Monica, you're a princess. Rosa, you are a witch. And Lewis, you're a giant. Now who's going to go first? Monica, what are your sentences?
Here are my sentences. I'm always looking for a handsome prince. I never see outside the castle. And I sometimes get to use my father's sword.
Very good. Rosa?
Why am I always a witch? I'm always evil. I rarely fly during the day. I sometimes give my black cat a taste of potion.
That was great. And Lewis?
I usually eat tasty people. I never avoid witches. I often sleep after a hunt.
Okay, good answer. Thank you all. Now let's do another exercise using adverbs. I want you to use adverbs of sequence in your sentences. Rosa, you're a genie, and I want you to tell me what you do in the morning. Lewis, you're a prince, and I want you to tell me how you find princesses. And Monica, you can be a fairy. I want you to tell me what you do when you see a witch.
Okay.
Rosa, you can go first.
Okay. First, I clean the inside of my lamp. Second, I clean the smoky smell from my clothes. After that, I see what wishes I have left to grant. Finally, I wait for someone to find and rub my lamp.
Do you have a good imagination? Okay, Lewis.
First, I put on my walking shoes. Then I lower the drawbridge and walk to the forest. Next, I whistle as I walk. Finally, princesses hear my whistling and see that I'm very handsome.
And very modest too. And Monica.
Okay, first I make sure my wings are always clean. Next, when I see a witch, I fly away quickly. Then I find a good place to hide. Finally, I hope the witch isn't hungry.
Good job, everybody. Thank you very much. So now let's do some exercises with adverb clauses. And this time you can fill in the blanks with appropriate words to begin the adverb clauses. Lewis, you can go first. So, something, the giant left, the elves were very happy.
After the giant left, the elves were very happy.
Excellent. After the giant left, the elves were very happy. Rosa, here's one for you. The dwarves have been very cautious. Something, the witch was spotted in the tree.
The dwarves have been very cautious since the witch has spotted in the tree.
Good. The dwarves have been very cautious since the witch was spotted in the tree. And Monica, here's one for you. The fairies flew away. Something, the witch saw them.
The fairies flew away before the witch saw them.
Very good. The fairies flew away before the witch saw them. Good answers, everyone. Okay, well, let's do another exercise with adverb clauses. This time, can you finish these sentences with the appropriate adverb clause? Monica, you can go first. The prince built a new crossbow. Something.
The prince built a new crossbow so that he could protect himself from the enemy.
Wonderful. The prince built a new crossbow so that he could protect himself from the enemy. Rosa, one for you. The magician turned the man into a frog. Something.
The magician turned the man into a frog because he had asked the princess to marry him.
Very good. The magician turned the man into a frog because he had asked the princess to marry him. And Lewis, here's one for you. The dwarves can go back to the cave. Something.
The dwarves can go back to the cave now that the king has killed the giant.
Great. The dwarves can go back to the cave now that the king has killed the giant. Good job, everybody. Let's do one more exercise using adverb clauses. This time, let's put the adverb clause at the beginning of the sentence. Rosa, one for you. Something, the children would never grow older.
Because they had sipped the witch's potion, the children would never grow older.
Good answer. Because they had sipped the witch's potion, the children would never grow older. Lewis, can you please do this one? Adverb clause, the people inside the castle would never fear the giant.
Now that there was a new drawbridge, the people inside the castle would never fear the giant.
Excellent. Now that there was a new drawbridge, the people inside the castle would never fear the giant. And Monica, last one's for you. Adverb clause, the people in Sherwood Forest knew they would marry.
Since Robin Hood loved Maid Marian dearly, the people in Sherwood Forest knew they would marry.
Wonderful. Since Robin Hood loved Maid Marian dearly, the people in Sherwood Forest knew they would marry. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Great job. Now it's time to listen and write.
Listen and write.
Listen and write these sentences. Number 1. The new moat will be dug tomorrow. Number 2. Genies always sleep in lamps. Number 3. The witch cut up the rabbit's liver slowly for her magic potion. Number 4, the fairy will probably fly all day. Number 5, generally, witches are bad people. Number 6, because the giant was sleeping, the dwarves could walk through the forest. Number 7, we can go into the castle now that the drawbridge is down. Number 8, the elves stayed in the mine until midnight so that they could make more rings the next day. Number 9, after the witch screamed, all the forest animals ran to their dens. Number 10, when Robin Hood came back to the forest, Maid Marian was relieved. Now check your work. Number 1, the new moat will be dug tomorrow. Number 2, genies always sleep in lamps. Number 3, the witch cut up the rabbit's liver slowly for her magic potion. Number 4, the fairy will probably fly all day. Number 5, generally witches are bad people. Number 6, because the giant was sleeping, the dwarves could walk through the forest. Number 7, we can go into the castle now that the drawbridge is down. Number 8, the elves stayed in the mine until midnight so that they could make more rings the next day. Number 9, after the witch screamed, all the forest animals ran to their dens. And number 10, when Robin Hood came back to the forest, Maid Marian was relieved. Now read the story and answer the questions that follow it.
Read and answer.
Dolores was a very evil witch. When she was born, her mother knew she was going to be a very bad witch. Dolores had many warts on her hand. Her mother knew she would use these to make horrible potions someday. The more warts there were, the better the potions. People always walked slowly and cautiously when they were near her hut in the forest. If she saw them, they would run. Then they would try to find a place to hide. Dolores mixed her potions slowly so that they would be stronger. She never made love potions because she didn't believe in love. When she was feeling very evil, she would make a sneezing potion. After a person drank this potion, he would sneeze forever. Dolores made many other potions, but fortunately she never used them. Dolores disappeared 5 years ago. It seems she tried to make a potion for a wizard. When he learned of this, he zapped her with his staff. Now answer the questions. Number 1. How would you describe Dolores' personality? Number 2. What did Dolores have on her hand? Number 3. Why are warts good for witches? And number 4. When did people always walk slowly and cautiously? Number 5. What would people do if Dolores saw them? And number 6. What did Dolores do so her potions would be stronger? Number 7. Why did Dolores never make love potions? Number 8. What would she make when she was feeling very evil? Number 9. What happened to a person who drank the sneezing potion? And number 10. When did Dolores disappear? Now check your work. Number 1. How would you describe Dolores' personality? She was a very evil witch, so she probably laughed when bad things happened. Number 2. What did Dolores have on her hand? Dolores had warts on her hand. Number 3. Why are warts good for witches? The more warts they have, the better potions they make. Number 4. When did people always walk slowly and cautiously? They always walked slowly and cautiously when they were near her hut. Number 5. What would people do if Dolores saw them? They would run and hide. Number 6. What did Dolores do so her potions would be stronger? Dolores mixed her potions slowly so they would be stronger. Number 7. Why did Dolores never make love potions? She never made love potions because she didn't believe in love. Number 8. What would she make when she was feeling very evil? She would make a sneezing potion. Number 9. What happened to a person who drank the sneezing potion? The person would sneeze forever. And number 10. When did Dolores disappear? She disappeared 5 years ago. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Practicing English.
Hey Dave, what a huge book. What are you reading?
I found this book in our library. I can't put it down. It probably hasn't been opened for 50 years. It's really old and dusty. It's a book of medieval tales and legends of old England.
Wow, look at these illustrations. They're great.
Yeah, I'm reading really slowly because of them. The pictures are done so well that I'm having a hard time getting back to the text.
What's your favorite legend so far?
Well, I've read about 3 or 4, and I think the best one is The Legend of Robin Hood.
Why do you like that one so much?
Well, it's hard to explain, but I like the idea that this man, Robin Hood, and his friends travel through the woods silently as they steal from the rich and give to the poor, as the saying goes.
Yeah, there is a sense of righting the wrong there. That and the fact that the Sheriff of Nottingham was so evil makes the story more interesting. By the way, have you seen the film version with Kevin Costner? Alan Rickman plays the sheriff. He's horribly evil in it.
Yeah, he was great in that movie. And how about you? Do you have any favorite legends?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't too knowledgeable about this topic until the other day. A student asked me about legends and stories. I had to think for a moment. The class really liked the example I gave, though. It was a legend of Bigfoot. You know, that big hairy beast that's said to live in the wilds of Pacific Northwest in the United States.
Oh yeah, Bigfoot. The Native Americans are said to have called him Sasquatch.
Yeah, one of the students did a report on Sasquatch, or Bigfoot as I like to call him. Whatever.
So the class all did reports on famous or infamous legends?
Yes, it was all quite interesting. We learned about the Yeti, or abominable snowman, but also legends about places that may or may not have existed, like Atlantis, the city under the sea. We also read a whole bunch of famous Greek legends, Hercules, for example, and others like Achilles.
It's really interesting to me.
So, are you going to finish this book?
It's huge, but I really enjoy it, so it could take a long time for me to finish it.
So, what other kind of medieval legends are in this book?
Well, there's the tale of Lady Godiva, the woman who rode naked through her village upon a great white horse.
Does that one come with pictures too?
I'm afraid so. Here she is.
Yeah, she's very famous, but I'm thinking of another one, probably even more famous than Lady Godiva or Robin Hood.
What would that be?
Come on, Dave, you have to know.
Who is bigger than Robin Hood in the world of legends?
Well, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, of course.
How could I have forgotten? Of course, King Arthur.
Hi guys.
Hi, Carrie.
Hey Dave, what's up that huge book?
We were just talking about it. It's a book of the legends of medieval England.
Interesting. One of my classes recently wanted to know about criminals and the legends that had been told about them. We started off with the Wild West in America. You know, the legend of Billy the Kid, the gunfight at the OK Corral, and Jesse James. And then we talked about Bonnie and Clyde, Al Capone, Ma Barker, and John Dillinger.
It sounds like your class was really into those old stories of famous criminals.
Yeah, they had to research their subject, write up a report, and then make a short presentation to the class. They loved finding out more, and I have to say, the reports were really interesting.
I think that there's something I can do very quickly on this topic. Maybe I can take the book to class and tell them to look up an interesting story.
That could certainly work easily.
Dave, are you going to try that tonight?
Yeah, I might.
Well, isn't your class mostly boys?
Yes. What's your point, Monica?
Well, I was just thinking, you know, the legend of Lady Godiva, the naked woman riding the horse. That's going to go really popular with your students.
I hadn't thought of that. That's really funny.